So hello to you on this lovely September evening from my favourite place, the River Thames. And today's subject is called A New Global Reserve Currency in the Making, and the West is asleep at the wheel. This is a huge subject with huge implications. Few are talking about it. Over a Zoom call last week, I heard some people discussing the Russian Davos, which they'd attended back in June, and I didn't even know such a thing existed, such as my Western Ptolemaic view of the world. Ptolemaic, by the way, save you having to look it up, comes from Ptolemy, who's a Greek philosopher who thought that everything around it revolved around the earth. So if you have a Ptolemaic view, that just means you think everything revolves around you. A bit like teenagers, really. But anyway, so we have this sort of Ptolemaic view of things in the West. I guess everyone does. But the Russian Davos, or as it's properly known, the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, held in June, is an annual event, began in 1995, to signal the new Russia, the then new Russian. It would attract global political leaders, business titans, finance bigwigs, all the usual sizzle. And the event went ahead this year, though for obvious reasons the VIP headcount was significantly down. And so gone were the likes of Angela Merkel, ECB chief Christine Lagarde, Goldman Sachs' Lloyd Blankfein, Citi's Vikram Pandit, ExxonMobil's Rex Tillerson and so on. And instead top billing went to the presidents of Egypt via video link, Kazakhstan, Armenia and other allied states. There were representatives from China, India, Iran, Serbia, Turkey, Venezuela, Egypt, Belarus, the Central African Republic, Nicaragua, and the United Arab Emirates. Quite the collection. And non-Western nations, basically, that have not imposed sanctions had greater prominence. And the official title of the forum was New Opportunities in a New World. And the recurring theme was how to improve trade between non-Western powers in a US dollar-controlled world of sanctions. A new form of international cooperation. How will payments be made? That was the title of one talk. How will payments be made? Time and time again, the conversation kept coming back to this non-Western international currency, a new one. And so that brings me to the second strand of thought that makes up today's little vlog. And that's the latest contribution from Credit Suisse analyst Zoltan Pozsar. And he's long since argued that Bretton Woods III, a new world monetary order, is happening before our eyes, and that new money systems east of Europe will be based around commodities and commodity-based currencies. And in his latest piece, War and Industrial Policy, Pozsar, who I'm fast becoming a fan of, he argues that there were three forces that shaped the Western economy before COVID. Cheap immigrant labour, cheap Chinese goods, and cheap gas. And such a trinity is no longer possible in a world in which trust internationally is evaporating. And he says this, the cartoon version goes like this. China got very rich making cheap stuff and then wanted to build 5G networks globally and make cutting-edge chips with cutting-edge lithography machines. But the US said no way. As a result, Chimerica is going through a messy divorce. The two sides don't talk anymore. Meanwhile, Russia got very rich selling cheap gas to Europe, and Germany got very rich selling expensive stuff produced with cheap gas. Those two sides aren't talking anymore either. Chimerica does not work anymore, and Eurussia does not work anymore either, he says. And now, in the divorce, it seems Russia and China are getting it on. Meanwhile, out west, QE zero interest rate policies, they're no longer possible in a world without cheap Chinese and Russian exports. There is now a rush to regain control of key technologies, especially microchips, key commodities, especially oil and gas, soon in my opinion metals and grains. And Pozar adds straits to the list: the Taiwan Strait, the Strait of Hormuz, the Bosphorus. And he says, I think that 4 themes: rearm, reshore, restock, and rewire the electric grid will be the defining aims of industrial policy over the next 5 years. The global order is at stake. So inflation or not, high rates or not, there is a commodity-intensive demand shock coming that could easily, he says, drive another commodity supercycle. And so we come to the third strand. Putin said this: the issue of creating an international reserve currency based on a basket of currencies our countries is being worked out. Putin said that last month. And in this regard, we have the former Kremlin advisor, now minister in charge of integration and macroeconomics of the Eurasia Economic Union, the EU, and he's an influential economist. His name is Sergei Glaziev. And he is, according to some reports, supervising the adoption of a new money system for the EAEU and China. And he says this: the world's new monetary system, underpinned by a digital currency, will be backed by a basket of new foreign currencies and natural resources. A currency like this can be issued by a pool of currency reserves of BRICS countries, which all interested countries will be able to join. The weight of each currency in the basket, sorry, it's got very windy, I haven't got my windjammer, could be proportional to the GDP of each country based on purchasing power parity, for example, on its share in international trade, as the population and territory size, of course Russia's saying that, of participating countries. In addition, the basket could contain an index of prices of main exchange-traded commodities: gold and other precious metals, key industrial metals, hydrocarbons, grains, sugar, as well as water and other natural resources. And you can bet your bottom dollar that many of China and Eurasia's brightest minds are plotting such a system. But it's easier said than done. Apart from anything else, there's the issue of storing all these commodities. Not all of them keep, especially the grains. Others take up a lot of space. That's why in the past, gold alone has been used to back money. It keeps very well, and you don't need a lot of space to store it. The other issue is trust between all those countries. Even though they're sort of allied, there's still a trust issue. Gold solves that. But the other thing is Russia and China both have lots of gold. I've long argued, as you know, that China's gold reserves are 10 times what they say they are. It would be a lot easier to use a gold-backed international currency, or, well, gold. But governments everywhere, whether controlled by tyrants or technocrats, are always going to want to maintain the option to print, debase, and manipulate. So gold alone is unlikely, but you never know. It works as international money, it's proven. But against this highly bullish for commodities backdrop, we have a situation here in the West that looks like the dead cat bounce in stocks is now over, and the bear is again gnashing his teeth. And that teeth gnashing has extended to commodities, be they metal, fuel, or grain. And now, once again, there is a rush for the exit. The main priority is to preserve capital, not positions. The price action, certainly in metals, less so in oil and gas, has the hallmarks of a bear market, not a super cycle. I keep saying these markets are difficult, but they are. So while there's a liquidity squeeze, all bets are off. But at a certain point, to my eyes at least, it looks like commodity prices are going to rocket. If only I knew when. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'll be back with another video very soon. To hedge yourself against all of this and buy bullion, check out the Pure Gold Company. I'll put a link in the comments. They're my preferred bullion dealer. And if you are in London in late September, I'll be performing my lecture with funny bits, How Heavy, about the history of weights and measures at the Museum of Comedy in London on September the 28th and 29th. I'll put link to tickets. There should be one on the screen. I'll put one in the comments. Please come along. You will not be disappointed. This is a surprisingly interesting and entertaining subject. In any case, thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe to my Substack. I'll be back with another video very soon. Until then, goodbye. And as I say, this is a big subject.